Okay, it'll be a while before we get going with the program here. I came on a little bit early, but I'm just going to keep going.
Are you on a separate tab or are you going together?
I believe the program should start about 7 o'clock, so if you're tuned in early, you can come back at 7 to watch the Patriots.
And then Scott, I'm not familiar with that. What's that? Oh, Mercy Hospital. Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the show. Yes, the Quinos. Anna and Scott from the Quinos. Yeah, we said live on it. I thought you were talking about like the Bob and Pat. I thought you were talking about the show. Because, you know, she's rolling with the higher, with the new crowd now. Oh, that's good. Well, I made a number of the people of interest slides. Yeah, we gotta get some of these notes to say Cammy on it.
Why me?
Because we have to do a little bit.
She doesn't have a laptop.
It'd be nice if we had a little bit of stuff that said our name on it.
Oh, these are all the open. And I'm going to take screenshots of and some of the stuff that's
We got, this is the Tea Party meeting coming up.
Aw, that's the day we get it.
Liberty was mad because I didn't respond to his text messages. He sent me a bunch of messages. I didn't notice.
Come on.
Where's Mary?
Not in pizza.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, they asked us to. Specifically asked us to.
So little time. I feel so important, man.
Okay, I'll just give you an idea of what we've got here in the room, just real quick. But the meeting won't be starting until actually 7 p.m. tonight. Yeah, pretty good. Got a pretty good turnout here tonight. So. Literature. I'll go around and pick up the literature and people that are here. And try to share some of that stuff. Yep. Anyway, if you want to come on out, the meeting doesn't start till 7 p.m. We're at Willie McCoy's in Champlin, Minnesota. And Raul just showed up. There he is. Say hi.
Hi.
Get a hug. Get a hug.
Give me a hug.
Everybody gets a hug. Everybody gets a hug. All right.
This is name and everywhere. She was at
She
Capitol.
did a great speech. She did a great
She got
speech.
some really good stuff at the camp.
I did a live on Janssen and talking, so I did a great thing, and then we're supposed to get together.
What kind of stuff did you do today,
I talked to
Raul?
Anna. She's really
What's that?
great.
What kind of stuff did you do today?
Busy day speaking at the Capitol, and I got for Freedom's kids.
Cammy got some video of you.
Oh, good.
Yes, I
Good.
did, and I got some photos too.
Got to make noise. Got to keep everybody fighting. Keep everything going.
Yep.
I love that the kids are
I know, right? It was great.
teach them to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, the fight ain't over. You think it's done with us? No.
No.
Those in charge got a taste of blood. They're
Yes.
never going to let go of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's up to us to teach them when they grow up to keep fighting and teach their kids. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Connection here is
All right.
Long day.
I know. Right?
problems with my connection. Hey. You haven't done a video recently.
I'll just say hello. How are you? You guys,
Oh, wait a minute. No, you can't escape.
everything's going great. Everything's going great. Kelly,
She did the live. I can't believe this. She gave us permission to live. Wow, dude. So, all the credit.
So we've got Kelly, I believe, is one of the people that'll be speaking tonight. So,
If you was at the Capitol, you wasn't.
so
They can't go to everything.
I'm just saying,
I'm not here.
go.
You know what?
my phone has no space. I cannot get to it on my phone. And I delete apps to make space. Man, my phone is
No, this is like 20 years ago. We need somebody that can touch it. And we know how to do that. So we need some good stuff. Well, it's good to meet you guys.
I didn't get much of you, just a little bit.
We got lots of candidates here. This is the kind of thing people should be showing up for in March. Various Tea Party, all people here. So you show up and you can talk to them.
Okay.
Wow, that's good.
Now we got a little ways to go to 7 o'clock. Hopefully we'll start on time at 7.
I like them. They're on the stairs. It was good.
Yeah, no,
We'll have to check the audio when you get home. Because as long as the audio's too low, we can jack it up. But try to get a good
I know it, but it was still kind of hard for me. You know what? I like it though.
My mom, she takes pictures and stuff. My mom was good. The visual was pretty good. And then the audio probably. There's awful stories. Horrible stories. You want to talk about Anna? Somebody can tell the story about Anna. Try to say. Yeah, we were we were fighting for him. We were out there trying to get the word out. He's right. It was awful. It was awful. Yeah, I got these. My tripods just get beat up. These get beat up. They get broken. I gotta fix them all the time. I got like 5 tripods. You know, they get broken all the time.
I think my life turned out really good at the Capitol. I think I was in a good spot. I loved it, you know. Oh yeah, you were perfect. I tried to, I didn't leave or whatever to go and take other photos, but I think I had a good spot for my life. And the person running this event, she had her life on the opposite side, you know. But otherwise, I don't know if anyone else liked it. I know she liked it and I liked it. So yeah, I think I had a good shot. But man, when Anna came on stage, I cried. I'm not gonna lie. I cried. I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't recognize it. That's not recognizing, but yeah, I cried. I'm not gonna lie.
One candidate for governor.
So who are we voting for forgot about it. I'm sitting there for governor, I'm like, wait a minute, who are we how about the guy named Guy for our governor? Heard of him? Guy for governor? Oh, I know some of my math classes probably. Oh, you just yeah, I don't know. What I neglected him, I probably told Courtney, which I apologize, I'm not I had a great day, though. Oh my God, I had a great day. I got this. Because yeah, because I was thinking, ooh, I got there at 1 o'clock.
My scheduler wasn't what you told me about it.
I got there at
I was busy with stuff and I wasn't worried about it. Yeah, it was good. What we're watching. Hopefully the audio is good. That's the biggest problem we have is audio.
But
Gotta get better.
I know never said the take unit is like all the people from the top. And the one person wants to stream. Well, how can I make a stream while I'm doing it live? But how can I make a stream when I'm live streaming? Oh.
If you have a Bluetooth mic and you spend time hooking them up and micing them up and telling them we're gonna record you now, they get really uncomfortable. You can do that. Yeah, they cost a bunch of money. But if you're running a video, just run a video. You get better. You get captured. As opposed to oh yeah, the burger is not huge though. Now we have to have our manners. That was really, I wish we could have done a video of the guy from Mankato. That guy from Mankato? You were there, right? Reporter from Mankato? Was he from Mankato? Capital. You were there, right? You were really good.
Oh, yeah. Camera guy.
Still got it. That guy from Mankato was really friendly. Dude, no fun.
And I got a bonus. No, it was. I can't. My top liver.
I had makeup for 18 weeks in a row. So now my cat had a chance to pay. And I had my website, and I had I just use it like you look at
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this month's meeting of the Liberty Tea Party Patriots. This is as loud as it gets, I'm afraid. The rest of it comes down to
Audio not on.
and all of you
Mike's not on.
being quiet and reserved.
Mike's not on.
They're signaling that it is on back there. Unfortunately, the speakers for the microphone are on the other sides of that partition there, and therefore everybody in that half of the room hears me via the mic, and everybody in this half of the room hears me because I am a loud and obnoxious person. My name is Travis Ekbaum, and I am filling in for Mary Amlaw this week, for this month, for the Liberty Tea Party Patriots. I'm also going to be joined on stage.
Travis, you gotta turn it up, or there might be another.
Yes, well, I'll explain again. The microphone, this is as loud as the microphone gets. If they can turn me up back at the soundboard, they might be able to do that. Otherwise,
Travis, I actually have a PA system in my car right now.
can you set it up in less than 3 minutes?
I can set it up in 5 minutes.
If you think that'll work, let's give it a
I know
shot.
it'll work.
All right. While we indulge Frank's delusions of being able to improve our sound system, not going to be hard. Amen to that. I'll continue with the introduction of me and Mitch Berg, who will be up later this evening. Oh, there he is now. So welcome. I've said that 7 or 8 times now, but who here is new tonight? Can we get a quick show of hands of anybody? Wonderful. Always happy to see you. Yes, get a hand of some applause for those new people. We're always happy to see new people. It's a great group that we meet here every month, and we hope to see you again. I know many of us are regulars. Let's get a quick shout out of where people are from. Just go ahead and shout out your Senate district, or if you don't know that, your congressional district. 44, 45, 35A, okay. 46, there you go, that's the spirit.
I don't know what my
All right.
I don't know.
So people here are representing a wide geography. I'll give you a little bit of background here if you aren't new. The Liberty Tea Party Patriots is the first and longest running Tea Party group in the state of Minnesota. This group formed in March of 2009, the first of 59 groups to form by 2011 all throughout the state. We are here to educate, motivate, and activate as part of the Tea Party movement to stand against out-of-control government of unconstitutional spending and taxation. We are that deserves applause. We are an affiliate of the National Tea Party Patriots Organization, a trademark name. The organization defined who we are and what we do to reclaim our country that our founders envisioned. Its mission statement is to secure public policy in line with Tea Party Patriots' 3 core principles. 1, limited constitutional government, so we have personal freedom. 2, free market economics, so we have economic freedom and prosperity. And 3, financial responsibility, so we have a debt-free future. These principles are our guide for who and what to vote for, and a guide for our policymakers at all levels to secure liberty-based policy. They are founding principles so everyone is able to pursue the American dream and one's own prosperity and happiness. So that's a little bit of background on the organization. I will now move on to some of the thank yous. A big thank you to Steve, the general manager of Willie McCoy's. Without him, we wouldn't have a place to be doing this.
Great place.
Also a big thank you to Kim, the banquet manager, and our servers. Nancy Powell, who many of you probably met at the door. She does a wonderful job setting up our welcome entry table and providing moral support. Thank you, Don Baumgartner, for your support and loyalty to cause. Your security efforts are so appreciated. Marcy Stromgren is our liberty-minded friend from Duluth. She is taping our meeting tonight, which you can view on her YouTube channel. Just the facts. You can find under her name, Marcy Stromgren. Donna Thibodeau usually comes up and does a little bit of an update to tell us how the Tea Party Patriots are doing on a national level. Donna, are you ready yet, or would you prefer to wait until they get the replacement sound system set up? Okay, Donna, why don't you come up and that'll give them some more time to get the equipment set up here. Donna Thibodeau. Here you go, Don. Oh, yeah. Look it out your way.
Ooh, look at that speaker. There was a camera. I'm just saying. Check that speaker out. Oh, she can call. I had to show you.
Patriots update. First of all, I want to start out with a disclaimer. A couple people have approached me, and I was flabbergasted, asking me to endorse or caucus for them. And I said no, because, especially at this meeting, I want the candidates to have full range to say what they want and convince you that they should be voted in. So I'm neutral on that. My job is to educate, advocate for, and motivate you to do something. First, I'm going to talk about education.
Check, check.
There is about
Would you like to be louder?
Frank is doing
Can you hear me?
oh, it's better. It's better, yeah.
Marco Polo.
Is it good in the back?
Polo.
Okay, can you
Good
hear
for
me?
us here.
Can you hear her back there?
Marco Polo. Marco Polo.
Yeah, because the speakers are there. Here.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. On each table, there is a white
Two mics?
handout that I have an abbreviated outline of what I'm speaking about today, plus I've got photocopies of different articles there that one of them absolutely blew me away. That article got my head spinning. It's called 2022 Midterms, Republicans Losing Redistricting Battle to Aggressive Democrats. And it says that Republicans hold 187 districts while Democrats only hold 75, but in multiple red states, Republicans have not drawn Republican favoring district maps. In blue states, Democrats have been very aggressive. The article goes on to say the Democrats' aggressive actions and the Republicans' weak efforts threaten the GOP's ability to win enough U.S. House seats to overcome its deficit of 5. What? What happened to one person, one vote? That really got my attention, and I have been really I don't understand it. And so I started calling people, and I was amazed at how many people don't understand redistricting either. But anyway, the importance of redistricting every 10 years is that the district, it goes by the number of people in a district, and if that number increases, they get more people to vote. If they get less, then they have to gerrymander the lines. The problem is that if they're supposed to be fair, each representative in the state of Minnesota is supposed to represent about 47,000 people, I've been told. But what the Dems do, and they're absolutely excellent at it, is if they have a blue district and a purple one next to it, what they will do is they will have some of their blue go into the purple so that hopefully the next vote around it will be all blue and the blue person would win. And we apparently are very poor at doing that. But can you imagine having 2 billion Omars in the state? Yeah.
No.
Anyway, that's what it ultimately does. It determines how many Republicans we'll have in the state and federal legislature. So, knowing that, what do? You know? Now the action part, and it's very short. On January 25, Tea Party Patriots declared it was National Poll Workers Recruitment Day. And I got an email like that. I don't know how official that is, but I got it. Anyway, the Tea Party Patriots is doing a number of things, and they're encouraging us to do the same. Starting with January, they started what's called an election integrity tour, and they're going into several states, and the tour is actually training. And right now, they're concentrating on Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, and North Carolina. In the next few months, the Tea Party Patriots Foundation has enough money to go to several other states, but Minnesota was not mentioned. So if you got any extra money, if you could donate it, that would be great. The next part of this, and it's very short, is contact the Republican Party of Minnesota and I'll show you a picture, to sign up to do some, we have a dire need for election judges. We have about 3,000 Republicans doing it and 10,000 Democrats. So you never know what's going to go on in those places. But I have on your white sheet there the organizations to contact. Republican Party of Minnesota, Tea Party Patriots, Hillsdale College, Minnesota Voters Alliance, Midwest Swamp Watch. And somebody came around and was talking about Weibel talking somewhere. If you ever get a chance to hear him, go hear him, because he has facts and figures. Now, I want to show you something. I heard about this book on TV, and it's by Molly Hemingway, and it talks about the 2020 election. A lot of people say, to heck with the 2020 election, let's just look forward. No, you can't do that, because you're going to repeat the same mistakes again. And this book is very much in depth. It's 322 pages of writing, and then the rest of it is all documentation. On page 26 of this book, there is a true story, and it starts out, shockingly, the 2020 contest was the first presidential election since Reagan's first successful run in 1980, in which the Republican National Committee could play any role whatsoever in Election Day operations. For nearly 40 years, the Democrat National Committee had a massive systemic advantage over its Republican counterpart. The Republican National Committee had been prohibited by law from helping with poll watcher efforts or nearly any litigation related to how voting is conducted, and that means the counting. Well, we all saw what happens when they kick out the Republicans or don't let them in. The 2020 election is part of that, and this goes from page 20 to 26 telling all about it. So I'll stop there, but if you get a chance, go buy this book and read it.
The name of the book?
Rigged by Molly Hemingway. Okay. Okay. Now, Hillsdale College puts out a paper called Imprimis. Okay. This is what the Minnesota GOP front page looks like when you go on your computer. This is what the Tea Party Patriots website looks like. And the number one thing on there is the Election Integrity Project. Everything revolves around the next election. Imprimis puts out a magazine every month that I get. It's free, by the way. It comes out of Hillsdale College. Yeah, thank you. And I've got the citations in the handout there of where to go to get it. There's a number of articles. One is the January 6th insurrection hoax. And okay, I gotta put this down. Okay. Ensuring election integrity, anti-democratic. And they have this guy wrote this, John R. Lott, Jr. And it's a good article. This one is the January 6th insurrection hoax. Okay. And then this one is the way out, and this one is Molly Hemingway's article. Okay. So, the bottom line of all of this is educate yourself so you know what you're doing, advocate for what you believe, and action. Take action. Sign up for something. The Republican, the Republican website has a whole list, and I got it in your handout, of what you could possibly volunteer for. If you don't want to be an election judge, then sign up to do something with counting the votes. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of different titles for it. But now I'm getting kicked off the stage, so.
Thank you very much, Donna. We do have one quick addition here from Jane from the Capitol Republican Women. She's going to talk about exactly what Donna had just touched on about becoming an election judge.
Yes, okay. Good evening, Patriots. Just very quickly, we just heard that we need Republican election judges, and there is still time. May 1st is the date for the Republican deadline to sign up with the party before the November election. The Capitol Republican Women have an offer for you. This is our election judge recruitment event, Saturday, February 26th. It is from 1 to 4, but you just sign up for a half-hour tour, and what happens is it's an interactive open house in our mock polling place. Our experienced election judges will guide you through and walk you through and show you what it is to be an election judge from the other side of the table. At the end, we will have light refreshments, and we will have people to help you sign up if you would like that. This is for the curious but cautious. It is a great learning experience. So I will excuse me, pass out our flyers, and there is a contact right under the little voting box. Contact either text, email, or call, and you will get a link to sign up, and it's a free event. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jane, and thanks for the work that you're doing here. One more quick addition here. John Augustine is going to speak about the John Adams Debate Society.
Thank you, Travis. So you guys got to hear me at length last month. Some of you did on the Legislative Evaluation Assembly. Just a quick reminder about our annual awards banquet, which is February 22nd at Jimmy's Event Center in Vadnais Heights. We'll be honoring Representatives Drazkowski, Green, Grossel, Lucero, Mecklin, Mortensen, and Munson. And our keynote speaker is former City Councilman Jeff Janssen. We're talking about refugee resettlement in the law. You've probably seen lots of coverage about midnight flights all over the country of refugees, illegal and otherwise, without much local group knowledge or community knowledge. And the larger issue of how the legislature is a pervasive emphasis on ethnicity and race throughout the process is destroying the process of assimilation and harming community stability. So that's kind of the theme of the banquet on February 22nd. Advanced registration is open through February 10th. I'm staying here throughout the evening, so if you want to sign up tonight, just contact me and I can get you the information. Again, on the John Adams Society, the other organization I'm prominently involved in, current chairman, we have picked our debate topic for the month of February 16th. We're in exile. We're not in the central cities right now because of the vaccine passports. So we're at the Rivertown Event Center in Hastings. You go to johnadamssociety.org to get the details. But our debate topic is resolved. Operation Warp Speed has left us in a black hole. Should be a good debate. Hope some of you can attend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. And now, to lead us in tonight's prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance is Emily Hardigan, President of Minnesota's Bikers for 45 and former Marine Corps Sergeant, having served in Afghanistan. So Emily, or Red, as most of us know her, I think.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Emily. And you were going to lead us in a prayer as well? Yeah.
Let us pray. Turn to us, Almighty God. Look down from the heavens at us. Come save us from your people. Come and save this great vine that you planted. This young vine made you grow so strong. Preserve and protect the people you have chosen, the nation you made so strong. Keep us alive, O Lord. I ask you to watch over the candidates speaking tonight and all the candidates that are running in this race. Give them the wisdom, courage, strength, and integrity they need so we can make Minnesota safe, prosperous, and great again. Show us your mercy, O Lord, and we will be saved. Amen.
Amen. And now to really kick things off tonight, we're going to have Mitch Berg, the dynamite personality from St. Paul, come up here and deliver some commentary on the current political atmosphere.
All right. You are expendable. Okay, first things first. Can you all back there hear me at all? Sir, can you all over here hear me at all?
Yeah. Would it be better if I used my command voice?
No. Thank God. All right. See, I've got a couple announcements. For starters, I live in CD4, as Travis mentioned, which means I'm represented by Betty McCollum. So anybody here from the 3rd Congressional District? 3rd here? You got two potential candidates here. We got Mark Blaxell in the House. Mark Blaxell, right over there. And on the other hand, we've got Adam Schwartzy here. Adam in the House, where are you at? You, in the 3rd Congressional District, actually have a legitimate choice. Think about that, and what's at stake when you go to the polls here, to the conventions here in a bit, to choose an actual representative to replace Rotgut Dean, okay? Because Phillips vodka is, well, you know the drill. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm a little off my game tonight because Rebecca Brannon's in the room. and I'm afraid there's going to be a shootout breaking out or something around here. So just everybody stay on edge here. Mary told me to talk for 15 minutes, and I'm not going to talk for 15 minutes. That's too much time. We get towards 10 minutes, just somebody bring me a bourbon diet. I'll take that as my cue here. But I'm here to talk about opportunities. And I bring that up because I just saw an opportunity. I've been seeing them all over the place. I live in St. Paul, by the way, I mentioned that. And I joke whenever I come out to places like Champlin, Dayton, Anoka, it's kind of fun to smell that smell of prosperity and competence compared with where I live, in the city of Melvin Carter, where you still got to show a little card. You may have 102-degree fever and be hacking your brains up, maybe a little bacterial meningitis on top of it all, but by God, you've got the little card saying you got the Moderna vaccine last July, so you're totally kosher. That's where I live. And yet, over this past year, really almost 2 years now, I've had what I would have considered unthinkable a few years ago popping up more and more. People in my social circle who you probably call DFLers, not completely crazy, but DFLers, because I live in St. Paul, and that's kind of, DFLers are to St. Paul what water are to fish, right? That's the way it is. And I've had more and more of them coming up to me and saying, you know, I could be persuaded. I could be persuaded. And the thing that got me to think this is something to really pursue is over the weekend I got a call from my daughter, one of my two children, one of the two lights of my life and the most important things in my world. And she called me up and she said, Dad, I'm not going to say what she said, language I used to punish her for saying when she was a child, boosted my catalytic converter. Now, she has been her little bit of rebellion. She's been a little left of center for the last, 5-6 years or so. I did the best I could, but you can't control your kids, everything about your kids, and she's doing her little left of center thing. And yet, she came to me saying, you know, I kind of want to sit out front with a baseball bat waiting for the next one here. And I'm thinking, that's my girl. But it's not just my daughter. I've heard more and more people like this. Friends of mine from North Minneapolis, friends of mine from the Midway, friends of mine from Highland Park, who are saying, you know, all these years of being mindless, unthinking votes for the DFL hasn't done us a whole lot of good. In fact, look at life around us here. A third of the restaurants and public accommodations in St. Paul and Minneapolis have tanked in the last couple of years here, just about, I guess, 25 to 30%. Downtown Minneapolis was having trouble even before the pandemic, and now it's like Escape from New York. I mean, I've been down there, you survive, you go in, you come out, but the risks are there. And this is not something that people who grew up in the fat and happy DFL that we all grew up around are used to. This is not Walter Mondale's DFL. This is not Hubert Humphrey's DFL. This is a DFL where Jacob Fry is the sane one. Think about that. He beat out Ray Dane, who makes Lisa Bender look fairly normal. And that was a close battle. And by the way, if he hadn't had two people splitting the vote in ranked choice voting this past election here, he'd be an ex-mayor. You'd get a mayor who was, or perhaps co-mayors, who are even crazier. And that's even sinking in with some of the people, perhaps that you and I know, who live in the city, who are invested in the city, who have invested in the DFL, and yet are thinking, oh, maybe everything I know is wrong. Kind of like my daughter has been doing this last couple months. Makes me happy. And so, I want to say, there's some opportunity here. And I say this with all due respect to places like Champlin, Grant County, Benton County, places that have been voting solidly Republican for as long as I've been in Minnesota. You're not mining any more of them out there. There's people to be had, there's votes to be had in the city proper. And maybe not all of them. Maybe you're going to have to fight for every doggone one of them, but every one of them is someone out there who's waiting for someone from the Republican Party to come in and say, you know what, we do have a better way. And I have to think, sitting out here in Champlin, you got to figure We all do have a better way, am I right? I was hoping for an hallelujah, but that'll do. In St. Paul, I'd have gotten an hallelujah, at any rate. And how to actually do that is going to be the interesting part, because there is also that impression that I hear from Republicans that the GOP is sort of like the Minnesota Timberwolves of politics. We are 0-25 in statewide races for the last 16 years now. We have some people here who hope to fix that, but in the meantime, the facts are the facts. We haven't won a statewide race since 2006, and even then, it was just a 2. So, what do we have to do that? Well, I've got a quick idea here, because whenever I wonder what to do in life, in politics as well as anything else in life, I ask myself, what would Don Corleone do? Most of life's great lessons come from The Godfather. I don't mean Bill King, my godfather. I'm talking about The Godfather. And he had some great advice for, I think, the Republican Party when he said in the first movie, we're going to have a meeting of the 5 families. Was that a great Marlon Brando or what? Thank you. And I think that's important, because sometimes as a Republican in St. Paul, it feels like Republicans spend more time ripping each other's throats out than they do the DFL. Anybody else felt that? Show of hands, and the Republicans have become sort of a circular firing squad. So let's talk about the 5 families of the GOP. And let me know if you recognize any of you. For starters, we have the Liberty crowd, the Tea Party crowd, the Ron Paul people. That's why we have this organization here. This is the Tea Party 12 years on. I spoke at a bunch of Tea Party rallies. I call myself a Tea Partier, pretty much. Along with them, we have the social conservatives. We still know the type, right? People for whom marriage, abortion, all the social issues, as important as they all are the only issues. We know them, God bless them. They ran the party up until about 2000. They're still out there, and they're important. We have the paleocons, the Ronald Reagan people. Part of my crew as well here. Of course, we have the Trump people, and I know we got a few of them in the house. And we know the Trump people sometimes don't always get along with the other crowds, am I right? And we know the other crowds don't always get along well with the Trump crowd, am I right? And we know that none of them get along well with the 5th crowd, the 5th family, the moderates, who for some reason seem to also include the donors, because that money always seems to be floating just out of reach out there every single election since Tim Pawlenty shuffled off into retirement. I'm going to suggest this. I don't know how to make this happen. I don't know who to talk to make this happen. But I'm going to suggest, as Don Corleone said in his inimitable way, it's time for a meeting of the 5 families. We're not voting for president right now. We got to win the state. We got to win the governor's office. We got to have a governor that's not going to play executive branch patty cake games with the National Guard the next time downtown Minneapolis or East Lake Street or University Avenue starts burning. We need to have a lieutenant governor who's not going to let her friends have room to destroy on their whim when they don't like a statue in front of the Capitol. And by the way, I'm more than a little inclined to go out and pull down the statue of Floyd Olson just to see if we get the same treatment. Am I right? We need to have a Secretary of State who's not going to defy multiple court orders about the transparency of our elections. We need to have an Attorney General. Oh, do I even need to finish the sentence? We need to have an Attorney General who's working for us, not George Soros. Can I get an hallelujah? Dang, that felt good. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up with this, because sometimes, especially living in a place like St. Paul, or especially living in a place like Minnesota, looking at a 0-25 record in the last 16 years, it's easy to feel like you're Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill. And when I think about moments like this, I think of one of my political idols. No, not Ronald Reagan. It's a fellow named Brett Schundler. Ring a bell, anyone? A fellow named Brett Schundler was the mayor of, and I kid you not, Jersey City, New Jersey. And he ran for mayor in 1990 as a conservative Republican in a town that was even more Democrat than Minneapolis or St. Paul. 80% registered Democrats, 6% registered Republicans. But they'd had a bit of a problem. A lot of crime spilling over from New York City before the Giuliani years. They'd had urban blight enough to make, well, the Jersey side of the Hudson River a national joke. No jobs, the schools were terrible. Everything was, well, New Jersey. And he ran on a three-point platform in a completely hopeless environment. Everybody is as hopeless as someone running for office in Minneapolis or St. Paul or, I don't know, against Governor Waltz. But he ran on 3 points: security, jobs, schools. And he hammered on those three messages. And he hammered on them to exclusion. And he took those messages to the citizens of not the far suburbs of North Jersey or Central Jersey, but Jersey City, where the parents, overwhelmingly minority, overwhelmingly working class, poor people, resonated. And he won 3 terms as mayor of Jersey City. Now, if there's that may seem like praise by faint damnation, it's not. It's a miracle, quite frankly. And Jersey City became the jewel of the Jersey side of the Hudson, which you might say is a low bar indeed. I don't know how many of you spent time over there. It's nothing to sneeze at, even now. And yes, if there's a party that's even more dysfunctional than Minnesota GOP, it was the New Jersey Republican Party through the 90s and the 2000s here. So he was not able to follow up on it. But it's just a lesson that shows you that if you get the 5 families together, and of course, as a New Jersey reference, that has all sorts of resonance here. I'll just have to be careful here. But if you get the 5 families together, if you pull in the same direction, and you reach out to people that have no idea that they're really Republicans yet, because nobody's bothered to tell them and show them yet, miracles can happen. And that's what we're all looking for here this year, isn't it? A miracle to happen. Can I get one more big honkin' hallelujah? Hallelujah! Thank you very much. Well, I said I'd be done in less than 10 minutes, and I meant it. So thank you all very much. I'm going to start introducing some of the candidates who've come out here to join us. And to kick things off, coming off a big win in this past week's caucuses, I would like to introduce, way in the back there, on his way to the front here, I'll do a little tap dance while he makes his way to the front. Please give a warm Champlin welcome to Senator, can I drag this out a little further, Scott Janssen.
Thank you so much, Mitch. Thank you, and thank you folks for being here. How many people here went to their precinct caucus a couple nights ago? Give yourself a round of applause. You are on the verge of making history. You are on the verge of making history. My wife and I have talked about what should a campaign look like. And we believe firmly that a campaign should be a transparent opportunity for a relationship to be built between constituents and the candidate. So tonight, as always, I'm going to be transparent and we're going to talk. But you folks, in many ways, are a little bit of a forging force for a lot of candidates. Nobody sees you as a bunch of milquetoast people who just go along and get along. You ask hard questions, you push, you want to know what's going on, and you want your candidates to know that they've got to be ready to answer whatever you want to talk about. And you're right. So tonight we can talk about a lot of things, but we're going to really try to just get right into it. Start out with, why am I in front of you? I never had running for governor on my bucket list. I would rather jump out of an airplane and see if the parachute opens. But life doesn't always ask you if you get to do what you want to do. Esther 4:14 says, have you considered you're in the position you're in for such a time as this? I think you're here with a lot of energy and a lot of engagement, just as my wife and I are here with a lot of energy and engagement, because it is for such a time as this. We have an opportunity that, by damn George, we cannot squander it. We must win. Please, let's work together. Mary, would you stand up? My wife, my better half. When I was in the seminary, before medicine, after dental school, I didn't like teeth. And I ended up thinking that the seminary might not work either because I was pretty blunt. But anyway, I was dating this really hot chick. And I decided in the seminary two big things. One is I was going to ask her to marry me. Thank heaven she said yes. 43 years. We have 3 children. Christy's a doc. Jackie's a family physician. And our son is an attorney, but we love him just as much. But I do think that in the House of Representatives right now in Minnesota, the Republican side of the aisle, someone told me that it has 0 lawyers, but the Democratic side of the aisle has some 24. So I think that we have enough lawyers in the legislature for now. We need more teachers, farmers, miners, and a lot of young people. That's what we need. A lot of you know that we've been very successful, our team. We came out a year ago and we worked hard. We tried to build a movement. Certainly, we shattered records and raised $1.3 million in the first 12 months or 10 months or whatever it is. It was a record-setting thing. We have 500,000 people that follow us every day on social media. We have 80,000 people that follow us on our email team. And the other night, we had a wonderful evening on Tuesday night as you folks came out and said, Janssen team, we approve of what you're doing, and we're going to allow you to win enough votes that if you add up the second and the third and the fourth place people, they still won't get to your total. So I say thank you very much. But now it's the next stage. You want to know, okay, Janssen, you for real? Tell us what you stand for. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. First, never again should we live through a period of time where science is sacrificed at the altar of political science. When I raised my hand and said, what you're asking me as a doctor to do with death certificates, this is wrong, I expected someone to say from the Department of Health, hey, thanks for the heads up, we'll fix this. That's not what happened. 2 months later, for the first time of 5, my medical license was under investigation. I had gone from the Doctor of the Year in 2016 in Minnesota and 35 years as a professor at the University of Minnesota. I'd gone from these situations, these honors, to all of a sudden, I was at risk of losing my medical license, not able to take care of the thousands of patients that I take care of. In 2000, I built a clinic. In 2017, I built another. In between, I built 2 restaurants. I know business. I know how to hire people. I've been successful. And all of a sudden, my life was turned upside down. Right now, there are 6 allegations out there against me. And they center on the fact that I've had the audacity to treat my patients with ivermectin. I've had the audacity to write prescriptions for hydroxychloroquine. I have had the audacity to tell some of my patients that I don't think they need the vaccine. I have told people, you have antibodies at such a robust level that, quite frankly, you have 27 times greater immunity with your natural immunity than you might get with a 2-step Pfizer. And for that reason, I'm being investigated. So never again should we let science get sacrificed at the altar of political science. But we need to talk about public safety. There has been a poison of lawlessness that has crept across Minnesota. It certainly started in the riots of May and June and the governor's inadequate actions. But let's be clear. The movement was already occurring. We were seeing liberal judges, liberal prosecuting attorneys already thumbing their nose at us, at conservatives. Conservative comes from the word conservare, which means to safeguard. We saw these people taking 8 and 10-year sentences and plea bargaining down to 5 months. We saw hardened felons walking out the front door of the courthouse after their trial was over, where they were found guilty because they credited the amount of time they stood in jail during the trial preparation so that they could walk out the front door. This has got to stop. But I tell you folks, we are not going to get public safety back just through that mechanism. We're not going to get it back just by putting more cops on the street, which is what we should do. We must realize that incarceration has to be a tool for us to tell felons, you're not going to get away with this. But we need to do something more. We need to retrieve our public safety on our own. We need to go after it with constitutional carry. We need to have stand your ground. And we need strong legislation written in on Castle Doctrine that allows us for both home and business, as well as automobile, that we can do whatever is necessary for us to protect ourselves and keep our loved ones down. We need to do that. I saw Mitch stand up and I got nervous. Okay. But I want to clear up something. There's a fellow in this room that I'd like to call out. Rob Dorr, where are you? Rob Dorr's in the back with his hand up. When I was in the Senate in 2018, I went through a transformational event. I was a newbie. I had never done this before. And the Parkland shooting occurred almost 4 years ago today. It's Valentine's Day soon. 17 people were massacred. Thousands of parents came to the Capitol. I wanted to lead on the discussion. How do we harden the targets? How do we protect our children? What do we do with these shootings that were occurring with incredible frequency? I made a mistake. I went to the leadership of the Senate and said, these folks want to have a serious conversation. What I should have done, I should have gone to the Minnesota gun owners and said, help me. I want to lead on this conversation. But I didn't. And that's on me. I was baptized into the world of what does it look like to have a serious, in-depth discussion about Second Amendment rights. Prior to that, I was just a guy with 12 guns at home, a medium shot at pheasants. Most of the time the pheasants seemed to fly away out of the field unharmed. But at that time in my life, in 2018, I had the chance to learn a ton. And Rob Dorr stayed with me. We had conversations. I had allowed my name to be put on a proposal because I thought it would be an initiating event in a discussion. It was a mistake. There was no effort on the part of the author of the bill to make it a bill that the NRA or the Minnesota gun owners could approve. After 5 weeks, I went to the author and I told him, I'm taking my name off this bill. You deceived me. You said you wanted to get something done. My biggest concern at that time was the fact that because my brother, after he had been involuntarily committed to a mental health hospital with schizophrenia, when he got out, he'd been able to purchase a gun without too much difficulty. And that bothered me, because by definition, he should have been prohibited. But he was able to do that, and he brought the gun to a family gathering, and I don't need to go into detail. I'm just glad nobody got hurt. But in 2018, we had a Republican House, we had a Republican Senate, we had a Republican Lieutenant Governor, and we had a weak Democratic governor with Governor Dayton fighting with his own party as well as his own health. We had the opportunity at that time to start pushing forward on stand your ground, on constitutional carry. We never had a conversation, not one. In the 4 years I was in the Senate, we never once had the opportunity to vote to push our gun rights forward. And we still don't have stand your ground. We still don't have constitutional carry. Constitutional carry does require a conversation. Does it start at 16? Does it start at 18? Does it start because you turned 18? Or should there be a 2 or 3 hour session the first time around so you understand the responsibility of what it is to carry? I want people carrying because when they do, there's safety for all of us. But the bottom line is some states say when you turn 18, you got constitutional carry. Many of the experts in 2A rights in Minnesota tell me they think that it's not a bad idea to have a 2 or 3 hour educational session the first time around so you know if you've had a beer, can that gun be in your car or does it need to be in your truck? If you've got an SUV, where does it need to be? Does it need to be unloaded? We need to have these conversations. But I tell you in all earnestness, I was baptized and I learned and I pledge to you that in the first 100 days, nothing would give me greater pleasure than signing a constitutional carry, a stand your ground bill, and Castle Doctrine. And that's what I'll do for you. I also got myself in hot water on marijuana. So let's be clear. I do not think legalized recreational marijuana is a good idea. But I do think this. I think our medical marijuana program is important. I have many patients that with chemotherapy, they can tolerate their chemotherapy much better with a small amount of THC in terms of the vomiting and the retching that occurs. I think that people that get caught with a trivial amount of marijuana, like a joint in their pocket at the age of 19, we can decriminalize that and not make that something where incarceration or a felony needs to occur. I think that we can expunge records if people then have recurring offenses like that, so that if they're trying to apply for a job with Target 5 years later, it's not on their record. I also think that we need to have a conversation so that when a person becomes a medically eligible marijuana patient, they need to understand that they're giving up their Second Amendment rights in Minnesota, because Minnesota does not allow those people to purchase guns. Even if they're not using the medical marijuana, they've lost their Second Amendment rights. We've never had a conversation about that. We have to start talking about these things. Conservatives shouldn't run from hard discussions. We should embrace them and we should lead. That's what you folks do. That's why you ask these hard questions. That's where we need to go. We do not want to politicize medical marijuana. But for patients with PTSD, for cancer, for chemotherapy, there are many reasons why medical marijuana program is a good thing. But in Minnesota, they pay 5 times what you pay in Colorado. So we need to talk about that too. But do I support legalized recreational marijuana? Heavens to Betsy, no. Why would we want to lead on that? We don't understand it. We don't have any ability to test on drivers. Are they capable of operating a machine or not? We don't want to go there. We can learn and watch others. There's plenty of states doing it. Next issue, the students. We've got to stop funding broken institutions. Kids need choices. You wouldn't go to a restaurant that only has 2 things on its menu, chicken and a hamburger, too many times, would you? Well, that's what we're doing to kids. We've got to allow parents to choose and send their kids where they want to go. We need to blow up the educational system, not because teachers are bad, but because the teachers' union has lost control. This country does not have compulsory education so that we can indoctrinate people. This country has compulsory education because we're selfish. We think an educated citizenry will be a stronger citizenry. We want a foundational education that involves reading and writing and arithmetic and history. And for damn sake, you don't get to change the names of the buildings and the lakes and tear down the statues just because you don't want them there. Too bad for you. We need secure elections. And you know that Governor Walz is going to do nothing to help us. Steve Simon has been a poison to our elections. What do we got to do this time around? We certainly have to have an equal balance of election judges. We've got to have poll watchers. But in advance, we need to canvass districts that are highly likely to cheat. We need to know how many voters can come out of those districts. And if by 11 o'clock in the morning they've exceeded the amount of voters that are in that district, we got to be able to stop them and go to a judge. We've got to be prepared like never before, because we cannot afford to have this election stolen. We have got to go in 2022 and win. Got to. So I just want to be clear. If we find a teacher teaching critical race theory, they're gone. It's got to be. So now let's get to the heart of the matter. 25 times in a row, we've lost statewide elections. And the reason is because we have not been able to generate the movement that's necessary. Be clear on this. Republicans don't elect Republican governors. It's Republicans and independents. It's the only way we can get over that 47, 48% threshold that we need to get over. We need to attract voters that we haven't been attracting before. And those voters are, for the most part, we need to do better with women, because the Republican Party hasn't always respected women in terms of what they wanted to talk about. And we're going to do a better job, I promise you, women, because you matter more than people realize. Second, we need to go to minorities and we need to ask them, what really matters to you? And you know what they'll say? Because I've been all over the Twin Cities. They'll say 5 things really matter to them: faith, family, freedom, less government, and protect the unborn. And that's what we're going to do. And we need to do a way better job of going to millennials and Gen Zs and extending a heartfelt invitation. We need you at our table. We do not need to demean you or tell you that you're not as smart as us because you didn't learn the 50 capitals of the 50 states by 4th grade. You have a different way of learning. I'll tell you, if these computers go down or my phone goes down, the last thing I'm going to do is look for an old white guy. I'm going to a kid. They'll fix it in a fast hurry. We need to invite them. There's no reason why we don't have 25-year-old legislators and 35-year-old commissioners. Honestly, folks, We need to lean into that group of millennials and Gen Z. Millennials are 25 to 40 right now. This is their time. We should be encouraging them to step up and help and honor them. That's what we need to do. So here we are. We've got to win this time. We have got to win. If we can get the House and the Senate, when I am governor, I pledge to you, in the first 100 days, you will see a half a dozen things done. And this will be done before budget, because we have got to stop this ridiculous budgeting process that allows us to ignore the important policy that needs to happen. We need 6 big policy decisions done. We need, as I said before, stand your ground, constitutional carry, Castle Doctrine, 3 done right there. But we need number 4, we need to write emergency powers so never again do we have an emperor conducting his rule over his subjects. I carried the bill the first time, the last day of the regular session. And at that time, the leadership of the Senate said, no, we're not going to let you try to strip away the power of Governor Walz. I said, why? It's not an emergency. Absolutely, we should strip it away. They said, no, maybe later. And then a month later, they did. And then they did, and they did, and they did, and then they didn't. And I said, why aren't we this time in November? It's not right time. We didn't play politics. We should not be playing politics. Every time we had a special session, we should have been stripping away his power. That's what we'll do for, is we will rewrite the emergency powers. And the 5th thing we're going to do is we will get student choice. And the 6th thing we're going to do is we are going to match up with 46 out of 47 countries in Europe, and we are going to have photo ID if you're going to vote. And we're going to make it... We're going to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. If you get caught cheating, you're going to jail because you're going to think twice about doing it twice. We have got to stop thinking that the best thing is to have the ballot box stuffed with ballots. What that ballot box should be filled with is eligible votes from citizens, each one getting 1 vote, and nobody having their vote nullified by someone who should not be voting. That's what we're going to do. All right. He said I've only got 10 more minutes, so I'm going to have to wrap it up pretty soon. But the other night, we had an incredible evening. My wife and I are all in. We have got to create a movement, and we can do it. We can do it because we're going to need money. We're going to need daring. We're going to have to take a page out of President Trump's playbook. You remember what he did as a leader? He didn't give you gridlock and omnibus bills and late-night dealings. He was right out front. He spoke truth to power. He was unflinching. He didn't back down. He did not get caught in groupthink. He spoke for every American. He was transparent. And you know what? He was daring. And we enjoyed his daring. In 2020, too many people thought, I'm not going to vote for a leader. I'm going to vote for a warm fuzzy. Well, how did that work out for America? So this time around, folks, it gives me great pleasure to be here with you tonight. We had a great night Tuesday night. We're going to go all the way, and we're going to do this together. Thank you for letting me be a speaker tonight.
So speaking of Rob Dorr, if the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus were to go to the Attorney General and say, hey, we'd like to have Rob Dorr working as a litigator, working for the Attorney General's office on behalf of gun rights, well, us shooters would dig it, am I right? Yeah. But the Star Tribune would be all over it, wouldn't it? Except that's exactly what happened out on the other side right now. The Attorney General's office is leasing out a couple of seats for litigators to people that are rented for them by Michael Bloomberg for climate issues, among other things. And that just goes to show we need an Attorney General who's actually working for the people of Minnesota rather than Michael Bloomberg. We have a couple of candidates for that office tonight. First one up with us next up, please welcome Lynn Torgerson, ladies and gentlemen. It's a long walk up to this front here.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Torgerson, and I'm running for Minnesota Attorney General. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and thank you for your activism, and thank you, Liberty Tea Party Patriots, for the invitation. I do consider it both an honor and a privilege. As I mentioned, my name is Lynn Torgerson, and I'm running for Minnesota Attorney General. A real quick overview, I think, which would tell about myself, that would tell you about myself, is 3 things. 1, I'm a Christian, 2, I'm a Patriot, and 3, I'm a Trump supporter. Thank you. I just want to tell you a little bit about my background, and I do this rather than kind of making claims of what I believe in or what I support. I always like to kind of give facts about my background in order to illustrate what I've actually stood for and worked for in my lifetime. But just a little bit of background, I live in Minneapolis. I grew up in a western suburb. I attended the University of Minnesota and got degrees in political science and psychology. After that, I attended William Mitchell College of Law. And then about 25 years ago, I founded my own successful practice downtown Minneapolis, which I have into this day. There, more recently, I've primarily been doing Second Amendment gun rights work. I also do expungements and historically did criminal defense work. And for the Second Amendment enthusiasts, are there any Second Amendment supporters here tonight? I've litigated and won gun rights cases in 36 different counties throughout the state of Minnesota, as well as at the Minnesota Court of Appeals. And for the Israel enthusiast, I was Minneapolis City Director for Christians United for Israel for 5 years. So that's, thank you. It's a little bit about my background. I want to let you know, firstly, a lot of people don't talk about this. I'm running to remove Keith Ellison from government. Thank you. Who has, and I always need to, I think we need to educate people on this, who has ties to CARE, which is the Council on American Islamic Relations, which was a named, unindicted co-conspirator to funding terrorism in the Holy Land Foundation trial. Yes, and this is established. There's a video on YouTube of Keith Ellison at a CARE banquet where I believe he was like a keynote speaker raising money for CARE. So since about 2009, I've led the cause of trying to expose the ties of Keith Ellison and CARE and their ties to radical Islam. I'd also mention quite early in March of 2015, I began rallying people to support President Trump to get elected. And also early on, since March of 2020, I've been leading the cause to oppose the tyrannical lockdown orders of Governor Walz. Yeah. And I think it's important to note that this has never been done by our government ever in the history of the state of Minnesota. And there, in my opinion, there are some of the most destructive acts of our own government against its own citizens in the history of the state of Minnesota. And so I support freedom. And I have a quote. It's not real short, but it's a huge motivation for me, and I think it illustrates the importance of opposing the lockdown orders with respect to businesses and shutting them down and the vaccine mandates. And it's a quote from a 1800s U.S. Supreme Court case, and it says, I quote, "Among these inalienable rights as proclaimed in that great document," and they're referring to the Declaration of Independence, "is the right of men to pursue their happiness, by which is meant the right to pursue any lawful business or vocation, the common business and callings of life, the ordinary trades and pursuits, which are innocuous in themselves and have been followed in all communities from time immemorial. It has been well said that the property which every man has in his own labor, as it is the original foundation of all other property, so it is the most sacred and inviolable. The patrimony of the poor man lies in the strength and dexterity of his own hands, and to hinder his employing this strength and dexterity in what manner he thinks is proper is a plain violation of his most sacred property. It is a manifest encroachment upon the just liberty both of the workman and of those who might be disposed to employ him." So what that illustrates is that we really cannot survive if we're prohibited from working. It's the only way to provide for yourself and your families. And this is under attack, with all due respect, by the left. And if you kind of take a look at it almost looks like, with all due respect, a siege, that they are trying to destroy private businesses, land ownership. First, they're closing businesses under COVID measures. Now they're getting people fired from their jobs via vaccine mandates. This has also affected the conservatives in the military. And they're paying people to stay unemployed by giving them unemployment. And now it's affecting the truckers, as we're all aware of. And so these sort of measures are things that I want to stop. I believe I know how, and I believe I know how to litigate cases to win and stop these lockdowns and the vaccine mandates. So I stand for medical freedom. There's a couple of facts along these lines that I want to point out. I've been watching the testimony given at the Senate hearing about a week and a half ago with Senator Janssen and all the renowned doctors across the world, including Dr. Malone, I think, who created the vaccine. And one set of facts that is very important is around remdesivir. Remdesivir is a drug that the Biden administration has essentially dictated to hospitals to give people who are there for COVID, remdesivir. And they know, there's already studies, that it causes kidney failure in 54% of patients. And but then the government has mandated this protocol in the hospitals, and then they're also paying them extra when they do administer remdesivir. And then on the other hand, we have ivermectin, which reduces the death rate by like 50%, and then they prohibited ivermectin. And then they threatened doctors, apparently. They sent letters across the nation saying, if you prescribe ivermectin, then we're going to go after your doctor license. So they are mandating toxic drugs and paying hospitals extra for it. And you can draw your own conclusions about that, but I would definitely want to bring litigation in that regard, perhaps even criminal prosecution. Thank you. And then I always like to talk about, I don't know how much time I have, I always like to talk about the Second Amendment. Justice Scalia, great, thank you. Very important case about 10 years ago, talked about the three main reasons for the Second Amendment. The first is so that we have the ability to defend ourself, family, and property. And then the second two are maybe even more important. Second is so that we have citizens armed on the ground to aid the military in the event that there's an attack against the mainland of the United States, which actually therefore means that we, the people, are the militia. It's not some group that somebody develops and names that. It's the citizenry, and we, the people, and the militia and the Second Amendment are supposed to make the government nervous, because it's also there to protect ourselves against governmental tyranny. So, and I also want to point out the word militia is in the Second Amendment. It's in our Constitution. Therefore, it cannot be a bad word, right? So I'm probably in the process of establishing one, and I have a name for it, George Washington Militia. But I'm also, I'd also like to, deal with voter security issues, investigate the machines, make sure they're working right. If they're not working right, make them work right, or just return back to paper ballots, things like that. I also want to mention, just for people's benefit, the strongest exemption to the vaccine mandates is the religious exemption. It's already been established. Those cases are eventually going to be won, so you should let friends and family know that, and then they should be able to eventually get their jobs back. And attorney generals can bring lawsuits, and I'd like to support that. So I would just encourage everybody to, you know, if you have a candidate, if it's me, please fight for your candidate, fight for me. There are bitter battles going on in the background, so the people you support need your support. Promote them, volunteer, donate, and things like that. So overall, a big reason I'm running is I want to protect the founding principles of our country, which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and to preserve our republic. And there's a quote another quote that I like. I feel like a minority in Minneapolis where I live, and I also feel like a minority in the Republican Party. So, it's a quote by Samuel Adams, and it says, "It does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men." So, I will fight. Thank you. I stand for freedom. I would note that Republicans, we've generally been losing about 25-1. Therefore, it means we have to work about 1,000 times harder. And just to let you know, I'm up for the battle and I get things done. So please support Lynn Torgerson for Minnesota Attorney General.
All right, I have a quick announcement to make here before we move on here, and that is the people running the event are going to be passing the hat here momentarily. That's how Liberty Tea Party Patriots function. We don't get money from the public employee unions. We got a big pony up here. So when you see the bucket, throw a few bucks in it to make it go away. Is the bucket over there? There we go. There's a bucket. Feed the bucket. All right. Anybody remember the movie Silence of the Lambs? Remember the movie where Clarice Starling walks into the house where the Mr. Creepy had been doing all this stuff, and around every corner there's something crazy and creepy and weird? Well, that's what the next Secretary of State from the Republican Party is going to run into when they walk into the elections office after 16 years of Democrat control. We need to get the Secretary of State's office back, and with us tonight is one of the people who's aiming to do that. Please welcome Kelly Johnner Byrne. We went there with the Silence of the Lambs.
You're scaring me, Mitch. What the heck? My goodness. No Clarice here. Hey, everybody. I'm Kelly Johnner Byrne, and I'm running to be your next Minnesota Secretary of State. So I've got just a couple of questions for you. How many of you feel that we need a new Secretary of State? Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think the one that's down there is lying, cheating, stealing, and doing all that? Yes? Okay. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm originally from South St. Paul. I'm 55 years old. I've been married to my husband for nearly 25 years. And 2 nights ago, in Minnesota, the law was being broken. What was going on, guys? What happened at caucus? What happened? Come on, you guys. What was happening with the DFLers at caucus? Illegals and felons. Okay? I believe in second chances, but when your when your full rights have been restored, then so be it, and not before. The DFL wants to move voter blocks, and that's a problem. So I want to tell you a little bit about my husband. My husband is from Ireland. He is a legal immigrant. He voted for his very first time in his first election, and that is the way it should go. How many of you believe that it should be only American citizens deciding American elections? 100%. Absolutely. This is an issue that is hot for me. How many of you go to restaurants? Oh, you're in Minneapolis, you mask up and do all that crazy. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm done with it. I'm done. It's over. It's done. Yeah, absolutely. You know what's interesting? I was on a Zoom call this morning. I'm a small business owner. I was on with a couple of hundred people, and the speaker on the Zoom this morning, do you know what they said? For the last 2 years, we've been under this process. I'm just going to call it a process. The process stinks, and we need to stop the process, because I'm done with that process. But this was interesting. Some of you may have 40 more years of your life left. I'm 55. 40 more years, I don't know. I got to stick around for a long time because I had my son when I was 40. So, you know, I need to give him hell for a while. But it was interesting. We've been doing this for 2 years. 5% of your life if you've got 40 years left. How many of you, raise your hand if you are done with it? I am. I'm done with all of this. I'm done with the lying, the cheating, the stealing, the lawyers. Janssen, you said something really good. You know what we need downtown? We need more farmers and teachers and small business owners and blue-collar people and people with 2-year degrees representing us. When we have to have lawyers downtown to represent us, that doesn't represent me. How many of you think that? We need more lawyers downtown? No. Okay. I don't think so. Yeah, watch what the questions are. Okay? Stay with me. So a little bit more about myself. Grew up in South St. Paul, graduated in 1984. My big brother graduated with Tim Peleni, and I was on the dance line with Karen Halsey. She really is just this big. She really is just this big. Went to University of Minnesota, had to work 4 jobs to put myself through school because my dad was a blue-collar construction worker. He was a union carpenter for 40 years. My brother owns a union roofing shop. I grew up in a blue-collar family. Measure twice, cut once. That was always the Eddie Carpenters in here. You know what I'm talking about? Measure twice, cut once. Okay, work with me, people. So that was really the piece. I had to work my way through school and figure it out because I didn't have any more money that was going to come my way. So the very first president I could vote for was Ronald Reagan, and that's who I voted for. And that was the last time that my family, my DFL family, voted DFL. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Thor, I'm never going to forget that name, God of Thunder. That was my dad and I had this discussion because how many of you have been around the planet long enough when you didn't really, you didn't ask somebody, it was considered impolite to ask them who'd you vote for, right? How many of you, that was impolite, right? So my dad and I had this discussion, and the seed was kind of planted then. It was like, I did something different than my dad, who I love and respect. But you know what? We have to get young people thinking for themselves. So a little bit more about me. The last time that we had a Republican Secretary of State in the office, who was it? It was Mary Kiffmeyer. And do you know who was her campaign manager? Me. I was. So I ran, this is my political experience, 20 years of political experiences. This is how it started. I was asked by Steve Swigum to run for House. I went through the BPOU process. The BPO who process? Okay? The BPOU process. And that's what I did. So I started from the front, and I was asked because I had opened a session of the House, a couple of them, on the National Day of Prayer, and I sang the national anthem on the mall. Okay? So I was asked to do that. I was Mrs. Minnesota in 2001. I'm super proud of it. I was the September 11th Mrs. Minnesota. My husband is a professional chef, but he was also a captain of the fire department in Woodbury, where we live, as a resident, not a citizen yet, and served for 17 and a half years. Very proud of that. I raised thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars that year for nonprofits, from the American Cancer Society, to Go Red for Women, to autism, to lupus, all kinds of things. Our country came together at that time. We weren't blue or red, we were Americans, because everybody was invited to that party. This is what we need to do, is we need to invite everybody to our party. Do you know how many maybe not super conservative moms out there that were pissed off and didn't vote, red in the 2020 election? There's probably maybe there's some in this room, I don't know. Welcome back. And that's what we need to be able to do, is welcome people back. We need to welcome people here because they're sick of their kids being masked up. They're sick of not being able to go to a restaurant. How daft are we? We go to the restaurant with our mask on, we sit down, and magically, while you have your damn sushi, the virus is dormant. What in the world? I mean, seriously. Common sense is just not as damn common. Maybe that's what we should vote on. You need to have common sense to vote, or you can't vote. Maybe that's what we should talk about. We're talking about the wrong stuff. We got the wrong stuff on the wrong program. Anyway, I lost my train of thought on that. I was thinking sushi. Bless America. Well, I'll tell you a couple of other things. Here's some things that we have to have. We have to have voter ID. You need to have your ID so that you can, get that provisional, or so that you can get the ballot. We do not have provisional ballots. We need those, and we need to push the legislators to do their job to get it there. That was another thing Scott Janssen said. Yeah, voter ID. I watched a video last night. It was really interesting where they were talking to African Americans and Hispanics and all of these sorts of, different cultural backgrounds. I have the cultural background. My stepdaughter is Latina. Her first language is Spanish. Yes, I speak a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of German, a little bit of French. Apparently I talk a lot. But we need to be able to communicate. Are you giving me a hard time over there? Yeah. Vote for me. Anyway, we need somebody that can absolutely communicate. So, what do I want to get done? Voter ID. We can only have American citizens voting in American elections. And I would like to, I was asked by a gentleman over, there you are. You asked what I wanted to get done in the first 100 days, right? That was the guy next to you. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, okay. So we really could benefit from a subunit in the Secretary of State's office that focused on election integrity. Because as Republicans, you know what we've been doing? We chase. We're always on the defense. I'm a hockey mom. We need to be on the offense. So I want you all to pull out your phones right now. Pull them out. And I want you to go to the App Store. And you can download our free app. Can I steal your paper from you? Thank you, Del. I'm not shy. That's one thing. And you can't have some politician out there that's going to be shy. We need to have somebody who's going to ask for the vote. On the back of his is a little QR code. You can take a picture of it and you go to swipered.com. Or it'll just take you to SwipeRev in the App Store. It's free. You got it. Okay. It's free. And that's how we can communicate. So let's just say, for instance, what's your first name, sir?
Travis.
Travis. Let's say that Travis, do you have any friends, Travis?
I'd like to think so.
Okay, this is a good thing. Do you have any friends that are maybe not as political as you?
And how?
And how. Excellent. So what Travis can do is Travis could actually be on SwipeRed and say, hey, Kelly's going to be in, up at XYZ coffee shop up in Ely. He could be talking to his hunting buddy or fishing buddy and say she's going to be up there, and that's how we can get the message out. What we are going to do is stretch a dime into a dollar, because we're going to need to do that. Steve Simon has already raised, I said his name, I feel a headache coming on. He's already raised like $490,000. It's going to take money, but it's going to take smarts. My background is marketing, so I'm going to keep going forward. After school, I got a really great job in sales, and I traveled the world. I've been to 42 countries, and we had owned a little property in Ireland for a period of time. Thank God that thing sold. Holy crow, it would be falling down around us now. Socialism does not work. Ever. Ever. So, that situation, having the ability to travel and work in a great job, and then I lost that job. Anybody in this room affected by the 2008 economic downturn? Yeah, a little bit. So I had my small business. I've had my business for 31 years. I'm a speaker, an author, and a business consultant. I help small businesses make more money. That's what I do. Small business owners should be doing the business of the business, and we help them make more money. So I said, I'm not going to go work for anybody anymore. The economy stunk, and so I moved my business forward. I took it from zero. It was me and a couple of interns, and we brought it to $1 million. We need people of action. So last weekend there was a poll. There's been a couple of polls on me. There was a straw poll at State Central. How many of you are delegates? Raise your hand if you're a delegate. Okay, how many of you raise your hand if you saw me at State Central? Okay, so at State Central we had a straw poll. I won the straw poll. Last weekend there was a little Alpha News poll, but I thought it's convenient that they didn't publish the results of that. Very interesting. But I won that straw poll. It started on Saturday morning, and it was a pop-up, a pop-up kind of a poll. And, and when we went to bed, how many of you saw it? A couple? Okay. Well, most people that, are really interested are probably not on Twitter because, Mr. Interesting isn't on Twitter anymore. So, anyway, so we won that poll. I want to talk about two last things, and then I'm going to give the time over to the next speaker. How many, maybe? 2 minutes? Are you going to come and tackle me? I'll race you to the door, Bird. Okay, Two things. How many of you believe that we need more election judges? Yeah. Absolutely, we do. You can go to our website, you can sign up to be an election judge. You can also go and get on the ballot boards. But do you know how difficult it is to get on the ballot board? You got to go through like about 14 different steps to do it. That's what I don't like about our system. When you confuse them, you lose them. And that's exactly what the DFL wants to do. Confuse them and lose them. And then tell me, trust me, I'll help you. I wouldn't trust one of them as far as I could throw them. There is a difference. In Minnesota, we do not have poll watchers. How many of you are shocked? We have something called poll challengers. It's right in the Secretary of State's office. There's a very big difference between a poll watcher and a poll challenger. Y'all know that? A poll watcher, no. The only action a challenger may take is to contest a voter's eligibility, if and only if they have personal knowledge of that voter's ineligibility. Minnesota law does not authorize poll watchers did you hear that? Minnesota does not authorize poll watchers. So when you say you want your poll watchers back, call your legislators and tell them we want them back. And the last thing is that I want you to know, I think Secretary of State's office has nothing to do with making laws. Our Secretary of State would like to think he does. He spent 10 years in the legislature, and he worked on the elections committees. And now he spent nearly 8 years, and I think 18 years on your tax dollars, mixing it up is enough. So, for those of you that like targets, this has nothing to do, but some of the guys in the back like the guns. I am a permit to carry. I'm a pretty good shot. Might challenge you to a shot, so if you want some of the gun targets, come and get them. I'm Kelly Jonnerburn. I'm running to be your next Secretary of State. If you have questions, I will happily answer them, and I promise you, if I don't know the answer, I'm not going to try to dazzle you with some BS answer. I'm going to go out and find the answer, because a politician, somebody that is asking for your vote, that has all the answers, I wouldn't trust them either. Thank you.
I grabbed one of those targets, but all my guns fell in Lake Superior last summer. Oh, maybe I'll get another one soon here. All right. Everybody having fun yet? Yeah. All right. Well, we got one more candidate to talk about here, probably the newest candidate on the docket here today. Please welcome, running for the nomination to run for Attorney General, please welcome Tad Jude.
Thank you for being here tonight, and I'd like to introduce my wife, Jacqueline. Putting up with our campaign. We start on Monday, so we have no printed literature out there, no printed signs. Wait till next week. We'll make up for it. But you give me hope. You give me hope that we've got good, solid, educated voters out there, and we need them this year more than ever. I was born and raised a few years ago. I was born a Democrat. And back in those days, if you were a working family, if you were mainstream Minnesota, it seemed like you were born a Democrat. It was the Rockefellers and the Bloombergs and the Wall Street elite, they were the Republicans. I'm a Reagan Democrat. I'm now a Reagan Republican. I see Ronald Reagan in the corner in that picture over there. And he made it safe for mainstream Minnesota, for the rank and file workers in our state to be Republicans. And that's the message we need to deliver to every corner of the state, and we will do it this year. Now, we do need a change in St. Paul. I'm asking you to send at least one new lawyer. We've got a few people talking about lawyers. We need at least one new lawyer in St. Paul. How many feel we need a new Attorney General? Yeah. It's embarrassing to have Keith Ellison representing our state. The first thing I would do as Attorney General is to go through every lawsuit that is filed by the Attorney General. When we had President Trump, it didn't take much to have Minnesota suing President Trump. I haven't seen one lawsuit against President Biden. We have a hyper-partisan Attorney General, and it shows in everything that he does day after day after day. I'll give you a little bit of my background. I've been in politics a while. In fact, I was elected as the youngest legislator way back then. It was a nonpartisan legislature. You weren't even on the ballot as a Democrat or a Republican. And there are a lot of good things about that. I mean, people came to a consensus about the way forward that we could go. After that, I was on the Hennepin County Board and served a few years. I met a few people who had been constituents here. I fought for lower taxes in Hennepin County, which isn't very possible with the constituency we've got. The last 10 years, I've been on the bench in the 10th district. That's Anoka County, Washington County, Wright County, Sherburne County, Pine, Isani, kind of the northern God's country. And I've got the ability, after living and breathing the courtroom, to go toe-to-toe with Keith Ellison. And if you look at what he's done to the office, I believe it's just a tragedy for the state of Minnesota. There's no better example of that than looking at the Kim Potter case. If you look at the Kim Potter case, it started out in Hennepin County, went over to Washington County. I watched it closely there. We had an experienced and respected prosecutor, Imran Ali, assigned to the case. He charged it out as second-degree manslaughter. That's what he felt the facts were. There were protesters. There were attorneys saying, well, we need higher charges. We can get a better settlement from the city of Brooklyn Center. Somehow that case went back to Hennepin County, went up to the Attorney General's office. It is troubling all the way through. I think you not only had the families of the victims of Kim Potter, you've got the system of justice that's a victim in that case. But it doesn't stop there. Our Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the state. Our chief law enforcement officer of the state is asking to defund the police. We have a crime problem. We have a carjacking problem. We have a problem with catalytic converters being taken. We have a problem with armed robberies. And our chief law enforcement officer in the state is discouraging new recruits. He's discouraging people staying on police forces. It's important that we take the proper attitude and the proper tone in the Attorney General's office. And that's what I will bring. I'll get rid of special interests like Michael Bloomberg funding positions in our Attorney General's office. That doesn't represent you. It doesn't represent me. It shouldn't represent any citizen in this state. They have special interests funding people in our state government that have that authority. I'll make sure that we don't have vaccine passports. I find that truly un-American. But I believe I do have the ability to win elections. I won 10 elections, a number of them in tough districts. We need to bring back everybody in the mainstream. We need to bring back the independents, carry the suburbs, and if you look at the vote on funding the police in Minneapolis, we have a lot of Democrats that support the police. With that, I would encourage you to support my candidacy. We're going to go forward more than anything else, we're going to take back the Attorney General's office after 55 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of our candidates who were speaking here tonight. We actually do have a couple more who are just going to speak for a couple of minutes from the 3rd Congressional District. We have Mark Plaxel. Mark Plaxel still here? There he is. Mark, if you'd like to come up and speak for a couple minutes.
Evening, everyone. I will keep it short. I am running for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District because I'm worried about the direction of our country. I remember not very long ago, back in the 80s, when the Berlin Wall came down and the Soviet Union collapsed, we thought that the good guys had won. And we did. The American dream, the American model was the envy of the world. But the left didn't go away. They went into their bunkers and back to the universities, and they came up with a whole bunch of new ideas that they have now taken out to the marketplace. They have infected the universities. They've trained a generation of teachers, and those teachers are now teaching our kids in school. And it's a toxic set of ideas. It's designed to control the way we speak, the way we think, what we're allowed to say, and cancel us when we step out of line. We need to fight that, and we need to fight it at its core. My mission, running for office, is to retire Dean Phillips. Dean Phillips, by all accounts, I haven't met the man yet, I'd like to, is smart, engaging, charming, and he presents himself as a moderate, as a problem solver. Increasingly in the Democratic Party, those two things don't go together. You can't be a moderate and a Democrat at the same time. And we need to have a candidate who can take Dean Phillips on where he lives. I've had a 40-year business career, so I have experience in economic policy. I think we need to bring common sense economics and America First policies back to Washington, D.C. We need to fight the strategy of the left to control our right to speak. We need to restore free speech, civil discourse, open discourse to our public squares. Finally, I have spent, and this is a longer story, I've spent 20 years fighting the fight for health freedom. I've been canceled. You Google me, you'll find all sorts of nasty things. All I've ever done in that fight for health freedom is to oppose vaccine mandates. And now the world is discovering that fight. So we need to defend the American dream. We need to defend the American exceptional experience. We need to not apologize for our founding fathers, for the Constitution, for the Bill of Rights. We need to stand up for America, and I'd like the opportunity to do that for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Plaxel. We have one more CD3 candidate. That is Adam Schwarzy. Adam, come on up here.
Hey, good evening, team. First off, raise your hand if you're at a caucus on Tuesdays. Heck yeah, you guys are part of the solution, not the problem. Some interesting data came out of that, though. Some really exciting data. 70% of the caucus attendees were actually new attendees. So actually, it's actually really fascinating to think about it. What should that tell us? Is that there actually is a war of ideology happening, and we're winning. That's a great thing. Who's a veteran who showed up for caucus? Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your service. So we assembled a team. We're actually part of that 70%. I actually had over 110 people show up for precinct caucuses that were representing Schwarzy for Congress, and all of them were under 35 years old, and a lot of them were in their 20s. I think it's correct that the message is we need to appeal to a younger generation. We need to take the wisdom of our values and not lose our values, but transcribe them and teach, not talk to, but teach the younger generation and bring them into our party. I've had the most incredible experiences serving for you for the last 20 years, as both a Marine infantry leader and later as a Navy SEAL officer. It has truly been an honor and a privilege to serve you. In total, I've served in over 70 countries, so trust me when I tell you that we live in the most amazing place on earth. America's always been the beacon and hope of freedom. Today, this day, the world still looks to our nation for strength and refuge from evil. As you may imagine, my service overseas was not in tourist destinations, but it did provide an opportunity to witness weak and failed leadership. I saw it in the destitution of families in Africa, corruption and violence in the deserts of the Middle East, and I've witnessed the rise of communist China throughout Asia. After serving our nation my entire adult life, I see the country that I love, the country that my brothers and sisters have fought for, have been willing to die for, slide in the same familiar weaknesses that I experienced abroad. Our home state of Minnesota, where I was born and raised, experienced its own vibrant cities burned to the ground firsthand. Business in the 3rd District were forced to be shuttered and closed permanently, while the cost of food and energy has skyrocketed. These leadership failures have forced our family, our friends, and our neighbors into undesirable predicaments in their everyday lives. This is all happening while Dean Phillips, Ilhan Omar, and President Biden remain silently complicit at best while actively supporting failed policies at worst. I stand here this evening because I'm informed by my personal experiences of where we are headed if we continue down this path. It's the dismantling of America. The difference between Dean Phillips and I is I know that our strength does not come from the politicians in Washington. Our strength comes from you. We are a safer and stronger America when we adhere to our core values of free markets, freedom of ideas, parent-driven education, fiscal responsibility, a limited government, a strong military, and respect for our laws and those who enforce them. My promise to you is that as your congressman, no one, and I mean no one, will outwork me. I'll wake up every day adhering to our seal value of the only easy day was yesterday. I won't look to Nancy Pelosi for strength. I will look to you as we work together to make America and Congress stronger again. My values come from my foundation, the son of wonderful parents who adopted me at the age of 6 months old and raised right in the 3rd. I grew up playing hockey and going to school in Bloomington, where I was brought up in a culture that values commitment, hard work, and community. I learned to respect others and carry with me common sense ideals. After 9/11, I took my Midwestern work ethic and values to serve our country. I will take those same values with me to DC to work for you. To change not only policy, but culture. We cannot continue down this path of socialism where someone in DC tells Americans what we can and can't do, but big government can. We will go to DC and remind them that the principles my brothers and sisters have fought for, have been willing to die for, are written in our Constitution. I spent most of the election days abroad fighting for your freedoms in every climate and place, as the Marines would say. I never thought about being a politician, frankly. In my house, being a politician is kind of gross. Because I watched President Biden and Dean Phillips strip our freedoms, fail to protect our borders, demonstrate complete incompetence and withdrawal from Afghanistan, erode our communities by defunding the police, rob parents control their children's education and therefore their futures, I felt that I need to join you in this fight. I can and I will be Congressman Phillips, who votes 90% with Omar Ilhan and 98% with Nancy Pelosi. Together we can make America stronger by pushing back on the threats that were once beyond our nation's border, but are now here with us today. This is now my no-fail mission, and I ask for your support to be your next congressman. I'll work every day to bring common sense leadership back to Washington and restore our constitutional rights at home, while simultaneously restoring America's international standing as a beacon of hope and freedom throughout the free world. Thank you once again for allowing me to speak here tonight. I'm Adam Schwarzy. I'm running to be the 3rd Congressional District, Minnesota. I'd like you on my team as we build a stronger America. Thank you. God bless. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Adam. Now we're going to have a short video from the Child Protection League and then some remarks from a representative of that organization. So let's see if I can get this thing to work.
Is Minnesota becoming a catch-and-release state?
Nobody can anybody hear that?
Minnesota currently is one of the worst in the nation as far as holding sexual predators accountable for their actions, for their crimes.
Child pornography. It is not a victimless crime. Every child sexual abuse image and video is a crime scene. These are real children, real families, real victims.
She's a completely different person. She was a straight A student. She was captain of the swim team. She was class president. Now she doesn't go to school. She does alternative education. Really struggling with that. She doesn't do any activities. She's withdrawn. She's really suspicious of men. She has lost all of her trust for adults. She wants to never be in that position again. And to do that, she realizes she can't trust anybody.
When you have to look at that day in and day out, what's happening from a 12-month-old child on up to, well, once they reach puberty, it's amazing what's going on out there, and nothing's getting done.
Until you've worked with, and until you've looked in the eyes of survivors and seen how difficult the time they have, trying to adjust in the future and trying to have meaningful relationships, trying to rebuild trust, where they spend year after year trying to figure out, was it their fault? Was it something about them? Then you'll understand why we need to have our sympathies toward the survivors, not the predators.
If you don't get to them within that 24-hour period, 12-hour period usually, that they're usually assaulted and then killed.
My bill, House File 229, which is part of Protect Minnesota Kids Act, will take these predators off the street. Minnesotans will not stand for this anymore. We will not allow our children to be victimized continuously like it has been, like it's been allowed in the past. It's got to stop. So our citizens need to stand up. We need help. We need their voices to be loud and clear. Put these laws, put the laws that are the legislation that's contained in the Protect Minnesota Kids Act, put these into law. And then we can start to work from there, because there's a lot more work to do to protect our children.
And now Kelly Janssen from the Child Protection League.
Thank you, how many of you have already seen the full version, the 25-minute version? All of you? Thank you. Thank you, Adam. So what I need you to do, I'm Kelly Janssen of the Child Protection League. I need you to go home and watch the full 25-minute version. It's on cplaction.com/shattered. And then what I need you to do is share it with everybody you know on social media, email, in any way that you can. And then I need you to contact the governor and tell him this is unacceptable, that 90% of these predators are getting probation. That's ridiculous, since most of them are hands-on abusing little children. And then I also need you to contact your state legislators. And the good news is that those of you that have already seen it and started spreading the word, we're making a difference already, because 5 House members have signed on this week and 2 Senate members have signed on already. So your voices are being heard. If you want more information, there's a lot on our website, or I have these handouts if you haven't seen these yet. And I just appreciate you guys all speaking at the same time with one loud voice and getting something changed so we get these predators off the street. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And thank you for all the work that the Child Protection League is doing in that area. They are our most vulnerable citizens, and it's absolutely tragic. Frank Long is going to now offer an invitation to a chili cook-off or something along those lines.
Yeah, the Conservative American PAC is having our 5th annual chili cook-off. We'll have 15 different people making chili. Most of the gubernatorial candidates are making chili or contributing in some way. Matt Dean and Steve Jurkowski will be the MCs. They're making chili that features a tree rodent, from what I hear. We'll also have we'll have Congressman Emmer, and we'll have Congresswoman Fishbach there. We'll have various Secretary of State and Attorney General candidates there. So, and I hope to see a lot of you there. So it's Saturday, day after tomorrow, from noon to 4. Although it usually stretches a little farther. It's $25. It is a fundraiser, but we do a lot of work statewide. We were previously the Carver County Conservative PAC, and we changed our name last year because we just had done a lot of work outside the county and thought that we should broaden our name and our brand so people understand what we do. But you can go to the website if you want. It's at the Autoplex in Chanhassen. So, and like I said, it's from noon to 4. It'll run a little longer than that. We've got 15 different chilies. Michelle Benson is going to be doing the dessert table. Dr. Janssen is going to be providing refreshments. And Adam says we're going to make Adam work. We don't know what, but we'll get something out of him. So I hope you guys can make it out there. It's always a great time. It's a lot of fun. And Rob Doerr's not entering, so he won't be winning again. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you for bailing us all out with this sound system that I think we're all grateful for this month. Captain Seth Keschel would like to say a few words, or I was told to offer him the opportunity to say a few words. Captain Keschel, are you still here? All right. Well, he was going to speak about securing elections. Looked like there's an event coming up in Monticello. I don't really have any other information to get you, but yeah. With that said, I will just take this opportunity to let you all know that next month we will be having some other statewide candidates join us on March 3rd. Senator Paul Gazelka, who's running for governor, will be here. Dr. Neil Shaw, who is running for governor, will be here. And both Doug Wardlow and Jim Schultz, who are both running for Attorney General, will be here. Again, that is March 3rd, same time, same place. All of you who were first-timers, hope to see you again then. And the regulars, of course, it's always a pleasure to see you, and look forward to seeing you next month as well. With that said, thank you all for coming tonight. It sort of wraps things up. Take some time, chat, meet some people you haven't met before, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much.